teachers share best practices and act as an education consultant to education ministers. She also co-founded an international nonprofit, US Allied International, that helps economically disadvantaged students to pursue their dreams of higher education debt-free. She's the Global Teacher Prize winner 2021, among several other local and international notable awards. You just heard that. How excited are you? Please, I want you to use your reactions to welcome her. Please use your reactions to welcome her. You're going, thank you. Use your reactions and show her how happy you are to hear from her. Okay, thank you so much, Ma. You have the floor now.
Thank you so much for having me. I will say greetings to you since we are in different time zones. I can't say good afternoon or good morning, so I'll say greetings to everyone. And before we begin, I would like to ask you all to just go ahead and put your country in the chat. I saw some of you actually already did that. Put your country in the chat, where you logging in from, and also put the subject that you teach. What subject do you teach? If you are a teacher, what subject do you teach? And if you are just an educator, go ahead and also include what area of education you contribute to, whether you're a counselor, a school principal, or any other admin. All right, great. I see English language literature. Awesome. That is my subject as well. All right, ICT, technology. All right, keep them coming. Thank you so much. So again, I am Kishia Thorpe, the Global Teacher Prize winner, and the first Black woman to win such a Nobel Prize. So some people call me the $1 million teacher. And every time I hear that, it makes me really reflect on my journey, because I, like most of you, really come from humble beginnings. And unlike most who had it planned out, I somehow seem to fell into teaching, like it was just maybe an ordinance of my faith or something. So growing up as a poor, underprivileged child from a broken home, my grandmother, who raised me, like most immigrant parents would say, well, you better be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, and I mean, it. And I see someone there said they teach all subjects. Awesome. So I was that emerging lawyer who, after coming to the US to pursue my American dream, what they call the American dream, would realize that it was not going to be an easy ride. Even though I had a ticket out of poverty from a country where not many of us succeed or rose above the poverty line, to really find in myself in a promising country, only to realize at first that my American dream was just going to somehow be a dream, because I no longer was only fighting against socioeconomic oppression, but the kind of systematic oppression that debilitated people because of the color of their skin. And I would always say to myself, well, I'm Jamaican. I would say to myself, even though I'm Jamaican, the American system did not see it that way. They see me because of the color of my skin. And it felt like I got lumped into some kind of race war that have historically marginalized and oppressed people of color in America. And to top it off, my intersections that included immigrants. And I know what, a lot of people across the world knows how some Americans think when they hear the word immigrants or even African American. So you can imagine what I was experiencing at that time. And so coming from my circumstances in Jamaica to having to adapt to a whole new world on my own, I felt like I could not catch a break at all. But somehow I did, because in college, I find myself helping students at a local public school in the evenings, where those students were from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. And it was then that I was introduced to teaching, and I call it my calling. I always said that I didn't choose teaching, it chose me. So I pivoted from pursuing a law degree and just really wanting to be a teacher to really help children like myself get a better start in life. And so when I began teaching, I really also chose to teach in schools where, I found myself, where I could see myself in my students, students with whom I identified and have shared experiences, students who I know were hungry for that American dream like I was. I wanted to help them create a pathway of success for themselves because I have charted that path for myself. And so, I wanted to be their beacon of hope, their light at the end of the tunnel. And so this is my 18th year that I have dedicated myself to teaching immigrants and refugee students and really trying to help them find a place in America to call home, despite the economic, social, cultural, language, and even political challenges that they have to overcome. And so as we're all teachers here in our own right, go ahead and I ask you that you participate earlier. This is the first time. So I would like to pause for a minute and ask you to put your story. What is your story? How did you become a teacher? Or why did you become a teacher? Go ahead and include that in the chat for me. I'll give you a minute to do that. Put that in the chat. How did you become a teacher? And what is your story? How or why did you become a teacher? All right, thank you. I see someone said my story is similar to yours. I was passionate to help Black students build social skills. Awesome. Oh, Joy said, I also wanted to study law. My parents prepared me for the law profession. However, fate got me into teaching, kind of like my calling. Someone said, I accidentally became a teacher, couldn't be officer and joined teaching to facilitate their financial needs, I guess. I became a teacher because of my passion for helping others. All right, thank you so much. And it's so important that we discover or we take time to reflect on our why, because a lot of times, especially now when teaching has become so challenging during and after the pandemic, some of us, there are a lot of teachers that have left the profession. And so it is up to us who have really remained and stayed the course and persevere and stand in resilience, that we consistently just go back to our why. Because if we don't go back to our why, sometimes we can feel defeated. And then it will also encourage us to move away from the profession and really what our true calling is. And we know we all can't leave, right? Because students need us. So thank you so much for sticking it out, staying your ground, and making sure that you prepare a better future for students of tomorrow, because they need us. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. So I know that I'm here to talk about leading change beyond the classroom, but I have to tell you just a little bit about my story and give you context on how I got here and how important it is for the right teacher to be placed in every classroom across the world. So I'm going to digress to share with you a poem that I wrote that can tell you a little bit about the incidents in my life that shaped my professional identity. So the poem is called Forever Foreigner. So here it goes. Where did it go? I have nowhere to go back to, no foundations built for me to revisit. Memories seemed like lies. They're all faded away, rubbles of cold brick walls, covered in parasitic vines that suffocate, filled with emptiness. My life then and now, so far removed from reality, seems like a bad dream. No one to validate who I am. They've never met me. They don't know me, only heard my name in the press. And now they label me a foreigner because my voice have a different twang, but I can't tell them where I'm from because it's not there anymore. And all the people are gone. New roads have been built over graveyards. And those who could recognize my face. Shops and stores replace vegetation where my favorite fruit tree was. I can't even recognize my old school because it now seems so small and seems closer to where I live since Uber decelerated time. They call that new hope, but I have no hope. The shortcut to my childhood home wooded as if to cover the footprints I left. This seems like a conspiracy. No family to call, just names I remember that no one in my circle today would recognize. So if I cover my past, it's because it's not there. So when I visit you, I can't be myself. I'd be seen as fake. But when I am American, you embrace me. But that's not who I am. Still, I am a foreigner in my native land, no longer Jamaican. And so I actually read this poem to you as an ode to my cultural and professional identity because I left Jamaica at a young age and came to a country that also rejects me because of the color of my skin. And so when I went back to Jamaica years later to find out I wasn't accepted either because they thought may have been too American. So with no family really left in Jamaica, it was difficult to kind of really defend my identity and who I am. Yet still in America, you still feel the sense of loss in both countries and you just feel like a forever foreigner. So my experience really, I tell you this because my experience has really allowed me to be able to relate to my immigrant students here in the US on many different levels. And so as a teacher, I really understand how to be culturally responsive. This means when we think about cultural responsiveness, we think about cultural experiences and perspectives of our students, and really to teach them more, how to teach them more effectively and placing students' cultural and social identities at the center of your teaching and working towards their academic achievement, their cultural competence, and a level of just really critical consciousness. It's about acknowledging all your students and their cultural identities and using it to really frame how and what you teach them. It's also about really helping them to tell their stories and using their stories to empower them and also showing them how to use their stories to empower themselves. And that's so important because a lot of times we don't tell our stories because we feel ashamed of where we come from. We feel ashamed of our circumstances, and we put that shame on our students. And our students then feel like they are inadequate and they don't show themselves, they don't show their gifts and their talent because they don't feel special, because sometimes we don't make them feel special, because sometimes we use their stories, especially if they're economically disadvantaged, to really judge them. And so they see that judgment when they walk into our classroom. And so we really have to teach them how to value their identities and how to be proud of themselves and where they're from. Initially, when my immigrant and refugee students walk into my classroom, like I said, they all feel like they don't belong. They feel afraid of expressing themselves and who they are. They feel like people already label them. So they really become mute and socially isolated. But understanding this I do really take that in consideration because of my own experiences. And I'm able to really lead with empathy and create that welcoming and safe environment for my students. They do not have to feel like outsiders for too long. So as a teacher, in order to lead change, it really begins with you and you being culturally competent and embracing all of your students, irrespective of their class, their culture, their color, their gender, their religious preferences, or even their socioeconomic backgrounds. So leading change begins in your classroom. It begins with understanding your students, connecting with them, building relationships with them, and leading with empathy. And most of all, just really leading with love. And we have to go back to that. You know, we have to bring empathy and love back into education. You know, teachers have to also recognize and affirm the differences of their students and be intentional about bringing students' cultural and academic identities together. Teachers also need to develop for themselves a higher level of consciousness by working through their own cognitive dissonance. That's so important today. You know, teachers have to really practice what they teach, what they preach. Practice what you preach. So if teachers say they believe in all their students and that all their students can achieve, then they do not use their students' circumstances and as an excuse for why they cannot teach them or why they cannot reach them. You know, remember that teachers are students' greatest resource. Let me say that again. And please, someone type this in the chat for me. I'm going to say it again. Teachers are students' greatest resource. Teachers are students' greatest resource, not the building, not the books, not the computers, not the infrastructure. You are. Teachers are students' greatest resource. You know, critics have argued that students' levels of achievement are linked to teachers' disposition, and it's so true, you know, that they can achieve. And the reverse is also true, that when teachers do not believe in their students, this often results in students living out self-fulfilling prophecies. And this is especially true for our students who are from the most vulnerable population, and especially those in urban school districts where people expect them to fail and see them from deficit perspectives. You know, and most of the time, the achievement gap is predicated upon students' color and socioeconomic status. And this is why teachers who are agents of change make it their mission to ensure these issues are not only addressed in school, but eradicated. You know, they reflect on how they have contributed to unfavorable outcomes for students and think about what they can change to make students successful versus how they can change students. And let me say that again. Teachers who are agents of change, they reflect on how they have contributed to unfavorable outcomes among students, and they think about what they can change to make students successful versus trying to change the students themselves. You know, they come from a social justice perspective of every student is valuable to the teaching and learning process by championing equity and inclusivity. So, you know, in my classroom, I design and teach from a social justice curriculum, and I refer to my classroom as a global classroom because my vision of success for my students encompasses all of them. And this is becoming ever more important in today's modern classrooms because of the increased diversity of today's student population across the board. You know, we see a hike in immigration every day, and we see that those students have to be integrated into these classrooms in those countries. And teachers sometimes are not really prepared. But, you know, we not just think about the diversity of our student population, of their culture, but also think about the diversity of their backgrounds and, you know, how they learn and how they engage as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second again and just ask you, what are some things that you do to honor the identities of all of your students in the classroom to make sure that all of your students feel heard, to make sure they all feel seen, make sure they all feel valued? What are some of the things that you do to honor your students' identities in your classroom? And when I say identities, I don't just mean their color, the color of their skin. Identities, there are so many different things that make up intersectionalities. Their identity is predicated upon their socioeconomic background. The color of their skin is one of them as well. When you think about the diversity and ethnic backgrounds of our students, their religion, their their special education needs, where they come from, their culture, what they, think about all the things that they bring to the classroom. How do you honor the identities of all of your students? All right, and Sunday says, bringing empathy and love to the teaching profession. All right, how do you honor the identities of your students? Yes, Joyce, I'm very conscious of my choice of words. That is so important because our students have gone through so many different traumas in their lives, and we have to be conscious of what we say to them and think about whether or not what we say to them is uplifting or it's tearing them down. All right, by creating love and connections. And all of these things are so important to making sure that all of our students feel like they have a place in our classroom. So as we think about how teachers can lead change, let's look at the teacher as a technician and teacher as an agent of change, because they're two different things. So let's look at, technicians. Technicians are there in schools to really implement a curriculum, and their measure for good teaching is the good execution of their technical skills. They see schools as a mediocrity, meaning an investment in students just based on their talents, their efforts, and their achievement. But alternatively, teachers who are agents of change have an understanding that there is a strong correlation to school and society. Their perspective of what constitutes good teaching is really the ability to empower students with knowledge and skills that will help them to navigate the world around them. They also believe it is it's the responsibility of the teachers to ensure that whatever curriculum they design for students has cultural relevance and can prepare their students for college or career. I know most teachers are trained to be technicians, and this is why we have so many classrooms with management problems, and behavior problems, students who are often disengaged or have really high attendance issues. These teachers who focus on numbers and percentages and how high their students can score on a test, and they don't realize that students really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So it doesn't matter how smart you think you are as a teacher, and how well you think you're going to go in there and teach a subject, and how well you think your students are going to grasp that subject. But students really are not, their level of engagement and their level of achievement is predicated upon the fact that they don't care how much you teach them, how much you know. They only need to know that you care about them, that you care about their well-being. And we know that when students feel a sense of trust and comfort with their teachers, they are more likely to achieve in the classroom. And so most students who are from poor backgrounds, sometimes you are the only caring adult in their lives. And that is why the best teachers are culturally competent and understand all the challenges that their students bring to the classroom. And not just understanding the challenges they bring to the classroom, but also understanding how to address those challenges. And most importantly, those teachers let students know that they believe in them. And they will do anything to help them to become successful. Our students need to know that. We need to stop believing that students are failing because of their bad behavior, because of where they come from, because of their parents. And if they come from urban communities, that's a part of the reason they're not doing well in our classes. Rather, we have to learn how to figure out how to meet the needs of our students inside and outside of the classroom. And not only should you consider your students' social and cultural identities in the planning of your instructions, but help them to develop socially, emotionally, and academically, because that's how you're going to get the best level of achievement from your students. Over the years, I've grown, obviously, I think that, again, teaching is calling, right? And those of us who have stuck it out, it's because of that. And I recognize that as you place those reasons in the chat, that we're called to do this. And the fact that we're called to do this, makes us special. I think, and I think that as we go through these challenges as well, we're given these superpowers to kind of help us navigate through these different changes. And as I have grown into an agent of change in education, even beginning my first, instructional unit every year in my classroom, I really focus on my students. My first instructional unit, or the theme is all about me, with the underlying theme of, our identities and our roles in society. What role do we play in society? How do we identify in society? Where all my students are able to share who they are, share who they are with their peers, and to recognize the value in each other, and to recognize each other's differences and what we all bring to the classroom, our uniqueness, and how that contributes to making our classroom a global classroom. And also not just them sharing, but sharing my story with them, that really helps to bridge that connection. And it really humanizes me to them, because a lot of times our students, because they're from different circumstances, come into our classroom and they feel so intimidated by you as a teacher. And sometimes when they know how successful you have been as a teacher, it really intimidates them. So you want to bring yourself down to their level by telling your story, telling them where you come from. So it humanizes you. They see themselves in you. And that's so important. I let them understand, the enormous benefit of the diversity in the classroom. And I also find myself incorporating, more texts from their culture that really represent their stories, and authors and characters that they can identify with. And because being culturally responsive to your students' needs is not just teaching them about, what you think they should know, but how do you bring their background into your classroom? How do you bring the things that they already know to the classroom and capitalize on that and build on that and make them feel important and make them feel like you see them and make you feel like you honor their backgrounds and their culture? And, being culturally relevant also too is about teaching students content and skills that's really relevant to their lives. How are they going to transfer those skills, those academic skills in your classroom outside of the classroom? So we're going to pause and reflect again. So what are some ways you build relationships with your students and connect with them? So what are some ways you build relationships with your students? What are some ways, put in the chat, what are some ways you build relationships with your students and connect with them? Right, and I'm gonna see some points here in the chat. We need to learn how to meet the needs of the students inside and outside of the classroom, all right, by caring for them. I buy books for them and we read them together. That is so important. And I actually, in my unit, in my next unit coming up, my students and I are going to be reading stories of other immigrants and other people who they can relate to, so that they can see how those people's stories turn out, so that they can feel empowered as well and believe in themselves by engaging them through discussions. Yes. And sometimes some of those discussions are tough conversations, but we have to give our students voices, and we also have to give them a safe space to use their voice. Extrinsic motivation. Yes, because a lot of them come in without intrinsic motivation. And so we have to start with that extrinsic motivation that can also help to really breathe life into them and make them start believing in themselves. Making them your friend, yes. Following up methods outside of the classroom, yes. Share their personal stories, yes. Motivate them, be their friend, yeah. You know, and being a lot of teachers think that you cannot be a friend and a teacher at the same time. And yes, of course, you can be a friend and a teacher at the same time. And just let students understand as well what those boundaries look like. And if we tell them what those boundaries look like, they will fall into those boundaries. You know, as a coach, I also teach some of the students that I coach. And when they come in the classroom, they're like, Miss, you're totally different when we're on the track. You're not so hard, you know, but I tell them, you know, when we're in the classroom, it's a more formal kind of interaction. And when we're outside, you know, on the ground, on the track, in the field, it's a total different scenario, and they can appreciate it. Once you create those boundaries and once you explain those boundaries to them, they understand. They understand. Learning through storytelling and proximity, making learning fun. All right, so those are all ways that we learn how to build relationships with our students and connect with them. You know, I have even changed the way I communicate with parents. You know, a lot of times we do not include parents in our students' teaching and learning process, the teaching and learning process. And so, you know, I have found that over the years, parents who are more engaged in their child's education, those students tend to achieve a higher level of academic success. So I find ways of communicating with my parents by providing them with information and involving them in the teaching and learning process. You know, I invite my parents into my classroom and let them understand how much their support is important and how much, you know, I value the success of their children as well. And so once you make parents a part of that equation, you also are able to achieve great academic success in your classroom. And it also helps with that relationship building that we're just talking about. We can do a lot in the classroom to build relationship with these students, but, you know, their parents are also an important part of that relationship as well. And I remember, you know, when I was in school, high school or even in middle school, you know, when parents show up and those teachers build relationship with those parents, it is so much easier to build relationships with their children. And I'm sure some of you in here can identify with that as well, because once you become friends with their parents, you know that the parents are going to check them. Did you do Miss Thorpe's homework? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you have a good day? Is Miss Thorpe going to call me today? You know, so, and then the parents themselves will communicate with you and check in on their students as well. And it's such a great feeling knowing that you have the backing of parents as well, you know, and that parents realize that what you are doing is important and that they understand and realize the important role of the teacher in the classroom as well. And so, you know, how do you engage parents? Put it in the chat. How do you engage parents in your students' learning? How do you engage parents in your students' learning? How do you engage parents in your students' learning? All right, so while you are filling the chat with your comments, I'll go ahead and we'll talk about, we're leading change in the classroom. And so, leading change, not just in the classroom with our students, but beyond the classroom. So, during the pandemic, I was one of those teachers who really stepped up and helped my school administrator conduct a school needs assessment. And the results show that many families were experiencing food insecurity. And so as an agent of change, I am aware. And as a teacher who is culturally competent, I'm aware that our students' hunger impacts students' education. Hungry children cannot learn, and with that awareness, it's really, really important, because then you have to figure out why the students are not showing up for your class. And instead of thinking in our minds what those issues are, again, that's why needs assessments are so important. You don't have to do it. You don't have to wait for your administrator to do it. You can just do a simple survey in your own classroom and then take on the responsibility of making sure that all of your students show up for you, because you're going to be showing up for them. So in the pandemic, I developed a food program called Food for Change, and I partnered with the mayor's office to help with food. We received like weekly produce that I was able to personally deliver to my students, because students were not coming to the classroom. So I figured out where they are, and drop by their homes and drop food off at their door. So, my students would come on Zoom, and, I would have people come into my classroom and said, how do you get all your students to show themselves on the camera, on the screen? And I would say, because they know who I am. I show up at their door. And so it's so important, because me showing up at their door, sometimes when they come on and their cameras are off, I'm like, I just saw you on Saturday, turn on your camera. And they turn their camera on and start laughing. And they're like, Miss, yes, I know you know where I live. So it's so important. And also it just helps to build that one-on-one relationship with your students, because during the pandemic, so many of them have been isolated and they haven't gone anywhere. And just showing up, again, really shows that you are human to them. You show up at their door and they're like, oh, she's not this person in the classroom who I think she is. And so they show up for you. If you show up for them, they'll show up for you all the time. So teachers as agents of change you have to know how to identify the needs of your students and how to resolve them, especially when it comes to when our students are experiencing crises due to inequities. And we saw that happen a lot during the pandemic. So during that time as well, I also partnered with other city council members and different organizations. And I really helped organize students, some of my students, to come out and really be a part of their community. Civic engagement doesn't stop. And also being a model teacher to your students and really show them what civic engagement means does not stop. And for me, did not stop with online learning. Just because my students were behind the camera, I find ways of pulling them out of their homes and into the community and making them take care of their civic responsibilities and really preparing them on how, after the pandemic, they're going to have to thrive in their communities. So it was really important for me to pull them out and not only be a model and a change agent in my community, but also show students what that looked like and lead students and guide them into what model citizens look like in their communities as well. And so, it was also important for me to have my students come out and help door knock, to register those people in the hard to count communities for the census. We know a lot of people don't necessarily always participate in the census. And so it's important. I'm not sure, how many of you understand the importance of the census, but this is important because our school communities, especially with our most vulnerable students, they need that federal funding. They need that government funding to come into the community. Those federal funding, for every person that is registered, they get counted. And for every person who gets counted, a percentage of money goes to the community to provide social services. It provides healthcare, infrastructure. It takes care of the roads, the schools, all of those services, services for low-income people who have to rely on other government services to help take care of their children. So it was really important. And I express the importance of that to my students. And we really go out into the community and we door knock and make sure everyone registers in the census, because especially in the pandemic, when they were experiencing so many different challenges, their community need that funding. I also joined the Michelle Obama campaign of When We All Vote, to get families to register, to have a voice, to have a choice in the future of their children. We also know that that's an area where a lot of economically disadvantaged population does not necessarily always participate. So it really was important for me to engage my students to come out and help those people in those community and express and educate them about the importance of voting and what that means for them and the future of their children as well. I've worked on also numerous education bills to create equity and equitable policies in my schools. For some of those bills that I have worked on, I have also received a Medal of Honor from the governor of my state, which was so meaningful to me that as teachers who work on bills, education bills and policies to make education more affordable or equitable for our low-income students, it was really an honor to be recognized in that way as a teacher. And so when we think about teachers as agents of change, those are the things that we need to step out and do. The best teachers know that in order for students to show up for them, they have to show up for students in all spaces, not just in the classroom, but in all spaces, being a voice for them, advocating for them, and really helping them to create a better world for them. Not just thinking that teaching is just a 9-to-5 job, but just willing to go above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that all of their students' needs are met. So I'm going to pause again to have you go in and express to me and others, how have you gone above and beyond your classroom for your students? How have you been a change agent, a leader of change in your community, and have gone above and beyond for your students? And as you're responding to that, I'm going to go ahead and read some of those responses that you had from the last questions of how you engage your parents and how you connect with your students. Through the platform of the Parent-Teacher Forum, yes, awesome. Involving students in discussion about their performance and tell them about the right resources for their children, telling parents about the right resources for their children, yes. Discussing their performance of their students with them regularly, yes, and align expectations, definitely, by telling them the achievement of their child and where you want them to improve in order to achieve their goals. Awesome. And I see one here. How have you gone above and beyond the classroom for your students? You have created opportunities for them to interact with people from diverse cultures. Yeah. Involving learners in the community, in community service learning projects. Yeah, so important. So important. So the question again is, how have you gone above and beyond the classroom for your students? How have you gone above and beyond the class, especially in the COVID pandemic? What are some of the innovative ways that you have gone above and beyond for your students? What have you developed? Who have you partnered with? What are some of the practices you brought to your classrooms, to your communities? And as you add those in the chat, I'll say the takeaways from the lessons of teachers as agents of change is a reminder that students do not need saving or fixing. So beware of what they called, or what Matthias calls or refers to as the savior mentality. I'll say that again. I know our students from vulnerable populations come from different backgrounds, and we sometimes think that they need saving or fixing. Our students do not need saving and fixing, so be aware of that whole savior mentality. Teachers as agents of change should see students as valuable contributors and as scholars of excellence, rather than viewing them from a deficit perspective. So we should not see our students from deficit perspective. We should make sure that teachers who are agents of change should really seek to build valuable relationships, not just with students, but the families, their communities. Are you showing up in your school community, in the community that you're teaching? Do families see you show up? Do you attend events in those communities? Do students actually see you in their community? Or do you just teach, and once you leave the classroom, that's it? We should definitely, again, build valuable relationship with our students, our families, and the community. And finally, they should not be afraid. If you're a teacher of change or an agent of change, you should not be afraid to disrupt the status quo to achieve equity in your school and equity in your community. Remember that teachers who are agents of change must ensure that their actions and their mindsets are aligned with culturally responsive pedagogy, not just in what they teach students, but also in the strategies they employ and in their relationships with their students as well. These teachers also must, again, I'm going to emphasize, must possess empathy and a deep-seated love for their students, and believe all students can achieve regardless of the barriers and the work. And you also have to work to eliminate those barriers to make sure that all of your students are successful. You're working for their overall success. So the more knowledge I've gained over the years about my students and their identities and how it correlates to my own, the more it has helped my professional identity as I try to advocate for them and really push back an oppressive educational system to give my students a fair chance to succeed and hopefully to attain their own American dream. So like my students, I had to overcome a lot to be where I am and who I am today. And really and truly, the right teacher in the right classroom can make a huge difference. So let's light the way for them. I will end by also saying that, believe in your students. You have to believe in their stories. You have to believe in their value, believe in their dreams, and most of all, believe in your ability as their teachers to change their world beyond the classroom. So again, I'm going to say, in ending, believe in your students, believe in their stories, believe in their value, believe in their dreams. And most of all, as a teacher, you have to believe in your ability to change their world beyond the classroom. And so I'll end this last question as a reflection. So what is one thing you will take away from today, or one thing that you have heard that have caused you to reflect on your own practice and to see yourself leading change beyond the classroom? So what is one thing you'll take away from today, or one thing that you have heard that will cause you to reflect on your own practices and see yourself as leading change beyond the classroom? I see someone echoed something I just said. the right teacher in the right classroom makes a big difference. Yes, it does. Creating more time while at home, calling the learner's parents. Someone said, I use songs, storytelling, and imagination and involve them in learning as KG students in their daily report book. I use it to involve parents by writing about success, challenges, and how we can help to make learning fun and progressive for my students. Someone says, believing in their stories. We have to believe in our students' stories. And not only that, not just believing in their stories, but leading with empathy. How does their story connect to yours? And even if their story does not connect to yours, but how can you put yourself in their shoes? Believing first in myself and then directing the same to the students. Awesome. Yes, teachers who believe in their practice and believe that they're able to transform students. You know, we have to think about our own disposition, our own beliefs. What do we bring into the classroom? What kind of mindset do we bring into the classroom? We have to think about that. And whatever that is, we always transfer that to our students. So make sure that whatever you're bringing into the classroom is a positive mindset. And someone just echoed that. Ogar just echoed that positive mindset. Yeah, bring that positive mindset into the classroom, because mindset, to some degree, you know, behavior is contagious. So when we start our classroom off each day on a positive note, it actually catches on to our students. Care about them and meet their needs. I got this clearly and understood it well. Teachers are students' greatest resources. Yes. Thank you. And as I end, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for those of you who showed up today to hear me speak. I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank Emerald for bringing me on again to share with you my best practices and also just a few insights. I know a lot of what I've shared, most of you are already doing it, so congratulations to you, and just keep doing it. Stay the course. Our students need us, and we are the light of the world. Teachers make all professions possible. So just know that you are their superhero, and the world should be marveling about you and your practice and what you have in store for your students. So continue to stay the course, continue to stay encouraged in the times when most people are leaving the classroom. We understand that someone has to light the way. So let's do that for our students and let's prepare a better future for them. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that wonderful section. Please, I need every one of you to just use the reaction button and send her a big applause. Please, let me see your clap reaction. Let her know how excited you are about this section. I'm not seeing anything. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Benga. Thank you so much, Ma.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you so much, Ma. So at this point, I want to know, is there a question? If you have a question, please just raise your hand. Okay. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to start with Adebi Adekunle. Your question very quickly. Adebi Adekunle, please unmute and ask.
All right. Good evening from here. I
Good
want to
evening.
ask if what could a teacher do if the head of the school is not agreeing with engaging the learners with the community's work? How can somebody achieve so? Because I believe if one is not getting permission or getting an approval from the head of the school, a teacher can literally do nothing to engage the learners. How can one succeed in this situation?
Great question. It's funny, a few days ago, I was on another panel and another teacher asked the same thing. And my response is, continue to do what you're doing. You know, when we think about Covey, Franklin Covey, and when he talks about what's in your circle of control, think about what's in your circle of control. You know, one of the things that I have realized is that some of the inequities in the classroom, in our classrooms and in our schools cannot necessarily be fixed there, because a lot of times, again, we have to think about the disposition of all of our leaders and our teachers. And sometimes when we bring some of our best practices, it's not going to catch on, and not everyone is going to agree with how you do things or some of the changes you want to make. And so that's one of the reasons why I created my own nonprofit organization. So the students who I'm not able to reach in my classroom because of certain barriers and boundaries, I create, and that's why we talk about how are you leading change outside of your classroom? How are you preparing yourself to meet the needs of students outside of your classroom that you cannot meet inside of the classroom? And so it's important that we do that. We create spaces outside where, and again, when we talk about parent engagement, it's important that we engage parents and allow parents to also have our back. When parents have our back and they believe in what we bring to the table, they also can advocate for us inside the school and inside those spaces. So that's why it's so important that we involve parents in our child's education, what we're doing in the classroom, and communicate with them all the time. And also let them trust you, let them know that you have the best interest of their child at heart. And again, be a model. You can control what's going on in your classroom, and you cannot necessarily always control everything that's going on in the building. So lead in your classroom, you know, model for your students the expectations that you have of them. And hopefully your administrators will come around and see what you're doing in the classroom and the progress you're making with your students and the measurable outcomes that you're having and success that you have with your students in your classroom. And hopefully they'll understand what you're doing and support that. But again, if you're in an environment that does not support that, think about how else can you create something outside of school to make sure that you're still catering to the needs of the students that you have.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We have another question, and that will be from Etienne Utuk. Please ask your question.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for that wonderful lecture. So you talked about helping immigrants and refugee children, racist victims in particular, to develop their social skills, coming from your story, your own story. So my question is, how do you measure this impact? Because I am doing a similar thing. What I did was, because I was always feeling timid when I was in a global space, I felt timid, not that I was even discriminated against. I think it's because of what has been going on in the world. So I introduced them to people from diverse cultures. What I did was to take my laptop to school and give them opportunities to interact with children and even adults from other cultures, to expose them to other cultures to help build their social skills. But I may not have the opportunity to measure their impact because I don't know when I would have the real life scenario to know when they have improved, aside from the improvement in class, because this helps their communication skills, it helps improve their confidence level, and also their social interaction. The first day was different from the third day. They interacted with people from different diverse cultures. So my question is, outside the classroom settings, how do I measure the impact like you did? If you can share yours, I think I would align with yours. Thank you so much, Ma.
Yeah, thank you for that question. You know, it's sometimes really tough when we think about how do we measure social skills and students' social emotional development. One of the things that I have always done is every time I develop my curriculum or develop a unit of a lesson plan, I always add a piece of civic engagement. Because again, being culturally relevant is also making sure that whatever you're teaching your students in the classroom, they can transfer those skills outside of the classroom. So thinking about activities of bringing in the community into your classroom or bringing students out into the community. So for example, when I teach students research writing and students are writing about topics that they are, that impacts them in their communities, not only do I teach them the academic skills of writing those research paper, but the civic engagement piece is them actually writing these proposals and taking it to the mayor or the Board of Education, and me creating that space for them. So when you talk earlier about communication skills and all those other skills that you want them to use, that's how you use it. You create spaces for them to independently participate or engage with others outside of the classroom. So for example, taking your students to the Board of Education meeting, taking your students to town hall meetings, inviting those city leaders into your classroom and having your students present to them, whether it's over Zoom, like on a platform like this, or whether it's in person, inviting those people, those figures in your community. One of the things is that our students feel intimidated by these people in our communities who they think have so much power. And they think that these people are also unreachable. So we need to bridge that divide, make the connection for them. So while you are connecting them with people outside of their classroom to learn these skills, how now can they use these skills in their actual emerging communities? How can they use it in their community as a part of their civic responsibilities to their community? So yeah, just teaching them how to participate in their communities using the skills that you have taught them in your classroom is so important. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, ma'am, you did. I'll create more opportunities that would allow them to engage with people outside or within my communities. I think that would help me measure the impact I have on them, or my lessons have on them.
Yeah, and when you do this, you be the guide and let the students be let the students be the creators, and all you're doing is facilitating, because you have train them and develop them to become independent learners, independent thinkers. So now you give them the autonomy to do this. All you're doing is giving them a platform for their voice. Let them create, let them speak to these people. You're bringing these people to them. And so now let them be the driver and you be in the back seat and just be their cheerleaders, because you would have helped them to develop these skills. And that's how you measure your impact. Seeing if your students become these independent thinkers, these global thinkers, and these problem solvers. Give them room for them to be independent, for them to carry out these projects on their own, either collaboratively in small groups or individually.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for that section. I believe we don't have any other question. I can't see any question in the chat section. Thank you for that section. Right now we're going to move on to the next agenda for today. But before we do that, I just want you to use the chat section and tell me, how do you feel about all you've learned from her today? Just one word. In one word, how do you feel? How was the lesson? How was the talk? Just one word. I want to see words to describe this section. Impactful. Thank you. Thank you. Fulfilling. Oh, amazing. Hopeful. Yes, of course. Inspiring. Oh, thank you for inspiring us. Please keep the words coming. Keep the words coming. Insightful. Okay. Yet teachers also need to work on their vocabulary. So I'm seeing so many adjectives to describe today's section, and I believe you're also taking notes. Super. Oh, thank you. Do we have more words coming, or should we just go ahead? Okay, so thank you so much. This section was insightful. It was fulfilling and it was inspiring. In the words of the teachers in this conference. They are saying, thank you, Ma, for that insightful section. Thank you so much. So right about now, we're going to take a poem from Ajakaye Strida. Is Strida here? Strida, are you on the call? Please, if you're on the call, please mute your mic and say, yes, I'm on the call.
Okay, I think she's there. Why she moderator, please?
Okay.
Moderator, okay, while we await Miss Keisha still have one duty to do before she leaves.
Okay.
She's a cover of the magazine that we're about to launch. And of course, she'll be doing us the honor to launch the magazine as well. So if Strida is available, we just give her, maybe Madam Keisha also write poems a lot. Maybe she can listen to her poem. And of course, while she prepares as well, we can quickly launch the magazine.
So Strida, are you here, or should we just move on? I think she's not on the call, or probably struggling with her network. So
yes,
can we now go on?
She's there. She's there. I think she's there.
Okay.
She has been asked to unmute. I don't know.
Okay. Can you hear me
All
now?
right. Yes,
can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I have to confess thus far, this program has positively touched me. The Emerald, let me call it Emerald Empire, because I'm a poet, has developed an invaluable movement to us and the world at large. And I'm here to be a poetic friend of the
Is she live? Oh, I think she's having issue. Okay. Is Ajakaye still there?
Network is bad. She's here. I don't think so.
Okay, I think we can. Once her network is back, we'll give her the opportunity. I think we can move on. Okay. Moderator, Joy, can you hear me? 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 Oh, Joy is not on the call. I think she has network issue as well. But quickly we will move on to inviting Ms. Keisha to a particular duty. Now, I will quickly, we won't have the time because of our time to do some videos about the magazine. But of course, you are going to be unveiling the magazine. Yeah, okay. Yes, right. This is the magazine that we've been talking about. We want to, first and foremost, I want to really thank Keisha for the privilege to be the cover of this magazine. It's a long way. It's been a dream for us here as teachers in Africa to really come up with this. May I say that, Keisha, we are privileged to have you on this call, on this magazine, because this is the first edition of the magazine, the maiden edition. And what again interests us is that this is the first magazine for educators in Africa, the first educator-centered magazine in Africa. I think so, some of us can clap. Can we clap? If you can hear me, please do the clapping. Please do the clapping. Do the clapping. This is the first educators-based magazine for in Africa. I am so excited for this wonderful job. Keisha Bumianani is also here, and some Ronke Shoyombo is also there. And then of course we have top people that were interviewed. The best teacher, the Motina Teacher of the Year, the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Education, Ronke Shoyombo, the teacher, the best teacher in Ogun State 2021, the BBC teacher that was featured on BBC. Everyone was part of this magazine. It is wonderful. And I think this is the right step for educators in Africa. I believe that this magazine will be showcasing what teachers are doing across Africa. We are so excited for this. And then again, we want to also say that this magazine has received a lot of support from partners and what's it called? We had a lot of people that say, okay, we love the concept of this magazine. Let us encourage you to do more for this magazine. I will try as much as possible to read their names. We have Madam Bumi Anani supported the magazine. Madam Bumi Anani, if you are here, you can show your recognition here. You can show your face for people to see you. Bumi Anani, thank you so much for supporting the magazine. We have Mr. Olalekan Adeko. Mr. Olalekan Adeko supported the magazine. We have Mr. Mohammed Bashid. Mr. Mohammed Bashid, you can show your face for people to see you. We have Mrs. Ronke Shoyombo. We have Alaji Shehu, Shema Ois. We have Mrs. Sanusi Aniyat. We have Mr. Dewale Kayode. We have Mr. Daria Adebayo. We have Mr. Dimeji Falano. We have Mrs. Inena Okoye. And so much people that have put hands to support this magazine for it to be here today. We are so excited that this magazine is finally coming out today for educators. I believe that educators across all Africa are excited to see this magazine. And of course, may I say before Keisha finally launched the magazine, of course, we are going to give a standing ovation for Keisha as she will be declaring the magazine launched. May I say that this magazine is now on Amazon KDB. Is on Amazon KDB, both in dollars and in pounds sterling. Amazon KDB. This magazine is on our website. This magazine is on seller.co. We can tell all teachers this is one in a million magazine, the first of its kind in Africa. We are so glad. Tell teachers across board that there is a magazine now that is for educators and educators alone. A lot of things to learn from in the magazine, health, and of course, we want to say thank you to the team that put up this. We are so grateful. From India, from Turkey, from Greece, from Pakistan, from Kenya, from Ghana, we had a whole lot of people contributing to this magazine. This is massive. I want to say thank you a whole lot for this magazine. So I will be calling up Keisha now to launch the magazine and give our award on the magazine. Madam Keisha, let's do again to welcome Madam Keisha to this platform. Keisha, let's stand up as we are appreciating. Now, can we give a clap for Keisha again? Please, if you can hear me, give a clap for Keisha. It is not easy. Please, can we clap for Keisha? Thank you so much. Keisha, you have the floor to launch the magazine.
Well, thank you again for the honor of actually letting me be the face of your first magazine. This was when you reached out to me, with the idea, I thought that this was so important because teachers across the board, we need support. And like I said earlier, it is so important that as teachers, we take a stand for the teaching profession, and not just take a stand for the teaching profession, but just really understand that all of us in this teaching profession need to stand together, because collectively we are stronger than we are individually. It's an opportunity to also really share best practices. And as you said, all of the other teachers from across the globe who have contributed to this, thank you so much for sharing your best practices. Thank you so much for sharing your time, because as teachers, that's also a part of going above and beyond, and making sure that we are meeting not just the needs of our students, because I think when we all think about the needs of our students as teachers, but sometimes we don't think about the needs of teachers and how we can be great for our students. And teachers have to be well. If the students are going to be well, teachers have to be well. And so this is a great opportunity, again, for Africa, for teachers to really share their best practices and making sure that our doors are open to the world, making sure that we're not gatekeepers of information. And so this is such a great platform to be able to share what you are doing in your classrooms, your best practices, share what's working for you, and making sure that the successes that you have in your classroom can be the successes for other classrooms as well. It's so important that we collaborate, especially now that education is in a crisis. It needs teachers who are willing to stay the course. It needs teachers who are willing to work with each other. It needs teachers who understand the concept of democratizing education and internationalizing education. We cannot, again, be gatekeepers of information, and we cannot continue to keep closing our doors. We have to make sure that we are preparing our students, our modern students, for the modern world that we now live in and for the future ahead. So thank you so much for Emerald Education Concept for coming up with this magazine and giving teachers and allowing teachers to really have a voice. Thank you for being that platform for teachers, because teachers need to have a seat at the table. And in Africa, you're giving them a voice through this magazine, and you're giving them an opportunity to network and continuing to build. So thank you for that. And thank you again for allowing me to be an inspiration to you, and also to be the face of your first issue, or your maiden edition, as you call it. So all teachers, go out and get it, because it's important that you know what's going on in your country. It's important that you understand that you don't have to go outside of your country to find innovative practices to be great, because there are great teachers just right there in your country that are doing really well. So again, network with them and continue to build. And I hope as well, as you leave, before you leave here today, you put your information in the chat, whoever you are, wherever you are logging in from, put your information in the chat so that you can continue to create this great network and reach out to each other as a means of support, because as teachers, we need that shoulder to lean on. It takes a village. So thank you again.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yes,
Can
we
everyone
can
hear
hear
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I hear you.
Okay. I think Ajakaye is back. I think Ajakaye is back. Ajakaye, you have the floor. You can continue with your point. Now, after Ajakaye, we are going to be bringing Mr. Rashid, Mohammed Rashid, to continue. Ajakaye, you can quickly finish your presentation. Ajakaye, can you hear me?
I've been hearing so many sermons about the.
You don't want to talk. You wanna drag.
I've been sermons about so the title of my book is Beyond the Classroom. Beyond the Classroom. Can you hear me? Measuring terms and types of passage, calculating statistics of million on group members, feeling of rich pride and unmasked pleasure. Oh yes, definitely. Academic excellence, what's all that glitters? Being patient in anxious hours. Concentratedly counting pages like currency. But after the ripe adventure of academics, what did your society say of your fortune? How many leaves did you spread through love? Have you ever posed the dreams of focused others? How many failures have you jailed from reality? Have you ever shared some more to the almost fulfilled? Have you ever pinched yourself for a suckling dream? O ye beyond the classroom, you have the ability to better humanity, the force of appropriating positive aspirations, being a mind which the society dares not to neglect, being a spoon to fill individual and societal significance, being an embodied, a picture of green morality. If I were my listeners, I would call beyond the classroom education. Beyond the classroom is education. Beyond the classroom is not against the classroom. The classroom generates part of beyond the classroom. I'm true. Thank you so much.
We appreciate her. Can we appreciate that? Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Let's appreciate that.
Thank you
so
I
much.
really appreciate this work.
Okay. Before we start wrapping up, I don't know if Morayo is there. Morayo is a teacher like us. If Morayo is there, before we call on our keynote speaker, for the closing speech, it's going to be a very short speech. Do we have Morayo there? Morayo, are you there? Is Morayo there? Oh, I don't think she's here yet. Okay. Now let's have the closing speech as we start to wind up. The closing speech will be delivered by. Oh, okay. Okay, is that Morayo?
Yeah. My clothes is inside in the chair.
Is that Morayo? Okay. Okay, please. Let's have the next speaker will be coming up. For the closing speech, as will Mr. Mohammed Rashid. Okay, I'm trying to share his profile.
I'm online. The network, it seems.
Okay, Moraya, are you online now? Are you ready now?
Yes,
okay,
I'm ready now.
Okay, please. You have about 2 to 3 minutes
Online.
before we go. Okay, please go on. Morayo here is okay. Before Morayo starts, let me quickly introduce Morayo. Morayo is one of the participants of Teacher Naija. It's a reality TV show for teachers in Nigeria, and she was the second runner-up for this for season 2. And of course, she is a teacher, and of course, she also is a comedian, an MC. She also cracks jokes. So we are giving teachers. We are giving a lot of teachers platform to showcase their talent as well. So Moraya wants to showcase one. Moraya, you have the floor in the next 2 to 3 minutes before we bring on the closing speaker. Moraya, are you there? Moraya, are you there? Oh, I don't think she's there yet. Please kindly find a place where you can have better network, please. Oh, okay. She's having a lot of network issues. Okay. Right about now, not to waste your time, we are going to be bringing on board Mr. Mohammed Rashid Mohammed. He is the CEO of Vanguard Education Company, and of course, the founder of Future Leaders International School here in Nigeria. Is based in Saudi Arabia, and then of course is also the West African coordinator for Array Global Educational Company in the US, and is an education consultant, an edupreneur, a school owner, and of course a global educator as well. Okay, having said that, let's do to make welcome Mr. Mohammed Rashid Mohammed as he delivered the closing keynote speech, the closing speech for this conference, and then we can pass some few information before we go. Mr. Mohammed Rashid, you have the floor, sir. Mr. Mohammed. Mr. Mohammed, are you there?
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So thank you for this opportunity, and let me, before I start, to thank all the people who came today to attend this evidence or to attend this conference. And kindly, if the admin just give me access to share my presentation.
Okay, you have your access, sir.
I have access now. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about the global teacher leading the change in educational sector. First of all, we need to define who is the global teacher. So actually, because I don't want to waste your time, so I'm going to talk about who is the global teacher. The global teachers who has international standards of education, that he is developed, flexible, inspiring, has also space for giving, has values and principles, has also message in life. This is a simple definition for the global teacher and the reality of education in the world. So this is the definition on who is the global teacher. Actually, the global teacher and all the teachers are facing education crisis. Education crisis, I think, the same all over the world. Let's talk about the education crisis. For example, education in the world has a great challenge. For example, in rich countries, they have a challenge, and in poor countries, they have also another challenge. Let's talk about the challenge in the rich countries. In rich countries, schools are more like hotels in which the students live between swimming pools, playgrounds, and entertainment, which loses its importance and the main purpose. This is in rich countries. So this is the price or the challenge in the rich countries. In poor countries also we have another kind of challenge, because in poor countries schools lack basic tools such as desks. Look at the picture here. This picture for school in one of the poor countries. I think all of the poor countries, they suffer from the same problems. So they don't have even the desk, they don't have even the board, they don't have any tool to help them to understand and to study well. So the quality of education is no quality of education in both countries, rich countries and poor countries. So as a teacher or the global international or a global teacher, we face the same problem. So there are approximately 20 million of children in all over the world, they don't have a school. Why? Because many factors. One of these factors, number one, poverty. Two, the second factor, poor living conditions. Many countries, especially in the Middle East, especially in Africa, especially in the places that have wars or suffering from the wars and disasters, they live in poor living conditions. Disasters and wars, we see all of us, we see what happened in Ukraine. Ukraine, it was one of the best countries in all the world. Ukraine was export all the food for all the world. But now because the war, now if you ask about the education there, if you ask the people about the school there, and I have many friends in Ukraine, and they are telling me about what happened there, all the school or most of the school are closed. Most of students, they cannot go to school. Most of students, they study online, and we know the online, yes, online is good options, but the quality of education is not the same like physical learning or physical attendance in the school. Also, we faced big problem last 3 years, epidemic like COVID-19 that swept the world, and we saw what happened. We saw what happened in all over the world. Suddenly, all the schools are closed. Suddenly, no schools. Some places, yes, they have option to study online, but some places in Africa, some places in poor countries, they don't have this option. So it was big challenge also for the education and for the teachers. And also many teachers, they lost their jobs. Also one of the challenge of the education or education crisis, the family problems and family breakdown. Because the student in this case, he doesn't go to the school, he doesn't go to study, no quality of education, and inside the school we face this problem, many problems with the students. The main reason for this problem is the family problems and family breakup. Also here, the new challenge in education, polling everywhere now. Actually, polling, the problem of the polling is not only in the schools, but rather a problem that has increased recently with the emergence of social media, not only in the school, no, also in the social media, also between the people in the streets, everywhere. This challenge is spread everywhere. So, because what is the problem with this challenge? The problem with this challenge that it destroys self-confidence. And self-confidence, that is the one of the most important value that the teacher build in the students or build in the child. So this is challenge working against our rule, working against our message. So the opposite of what education does, where the international teachers build self-confidence, independence of the personality, all of these values, the teacher build it, and acceptance also of others and acceptance of yourself. All of these values, by the way, the education is not only the knowledge, the education, not only the information that you offer for the students, but the main purpose of education, all of these values, the self-confidence, acceptance of other people, acceptance of yourself, because some students, they don't accept themselves. Some students, they don't accept other people because they are from different tribes, or from different religion, or from different countries. So all of these values you build it, but one of these is challenge polling. Polling destroy all of these values. So we need to answer the question of the topic. The question of the topic is how the global teacher, how the international, how the most modern teacher face all of these challenges and leading the change in the education. So from the above, the education sector needs to change for the better. And only the global teacher, the modern teacher, the educated person who can be the world's teachers will do this task. Because the teacher is a leader. He leads his students into the future because he is a leader. This is the meaning of the leader. He guides his students to morals. He inspires his students to change their conscience. So this is the role of the teachers or the global teachers. Learning doesn't mean preparing for life, but it is the life. Education is the profession that makes all professions. This is the role of the teacher. Education creates self-confidence. Self-confidence creates hope, and hope breeds peace inside the human. Because more knowledge, if you have more knowledge, the person becomes less extremist. And this is what we face, the main problem that we face in the Middle East, and the main problem that we face in our country, extremism. So if you have more knowledge, so you will be less extremism. And as we say, I repeat this sentence all the time when I meet with my colleagues, the teachers. We say the engineer and the doctor make the man from the outside. Maybe he built his home, maybe he trained his body, but the teachers make the man from inside, and there is a difference between them. Thank you for listening, and I hope to meet you again, inshallah, in the future in another conference. Thank you. So if you have any question, I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Rashid. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much for that closing lecture. A global teacher is the one that is leading a change in the education sector. And that's the essence of this conference. You are a teacher, you are leading a change in the education sector. You are leading. So as from today, one of your takeaway from this conference is that you want to be an agent of change. both in the classroom and outside the classroom. You are now an agent of change, and we want you to be such. So let's go out there into our classrooms. Let's go out there into our classrooms, into our community, into our countries, and let's start effecting the change that is needed. So as we wrap up tonight, I'll quickly give some information, and of course, I will thank people again. We want to say thank you to all speakers, all our speakers who have been magnificent since Thursday. It has not been easy since Thursday. It's back to back. I want to thank every participant. Like we have promised, we have some of our partners have promised to give some free courses and free programs to teachers. So we have selected about 30 teachers already, and then we are still going to select about 40 more teachers to benefit from school leakers program. School leaker is giving you free courses to do with certificates from School Leaker, courtesy of School Leaker, from Pre-Performance University, from Mogi Leadership School, from 3D Africa, and every of the partners that are there for us. They are going to be giving us free courses. We are going to be selecting a total of 80 teachers to benefit from the free courses that our partners have provided. So we want to say a big thank you to Pre-Performance University from Cameroon, School Nefa from Nigeria, 3D Africa from Nigeria, Mogi Leadership and Heroes Nation from Nigeria, League of Teachers. We want to say thank you to Good Minded Academy and to our sponsors, to EdVest. Like EdVest have said the other time, if you want EdVest to come to your school to manage your learning management system, please do well to have EdVest. Please do well to have EdVest. Send me a message. Some persons sent me message. Some persons requested that EdVest. They need the contacts of EdVest. They want to reach out to EdVest. Please, those in Liberia, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria and Ghana that said they want EdVest to come in to their school, please send me a message. My contact, I will drop my contacts, my WhatsApp contacts immediately right here. I will drop my. I'm dropping my WhatsApp contacts for everyone, and that's +234 90 11600 5019 +234 1600 5019. Now this is my WhatsApp contact for everyone that want to reach out to me. If you want EdVest to manage, your what's it called? If you want EdVest to manage your learning management system, send me a text. EdVest will do that. Again, like we have shared to you for the magazine, please tell other educators as well to go and get the magazine. It's going to be a wonderful experience for you. The magazine is so rich. Other interviewers that have been in that magazine, and then again, like we have announced the other time, the STEM Educators program that is coming up. I'm trying to look for it. The STEM Educators program. We are planning a lot of program for you, educators. One of them is STEM Educators program. The STEM Educators program is building educators across board. Okay, before we go into STEM, again, we have another program, the digital lab. The world is going to digital now. I will be putting all this link on the what's it called. The digital lab program is there for us. We are going to be learning about 50 digital tools. 50. Okay. we are going to be learning about 50 digital tools that you can use in the classroom. You're also going to be learning about how to become, what's it called? How to become Microsoft certified innovative teacher, how to become a Google certified educator in this digital program. And this is it. We are going to share, Mr. Rashid has shared the link to his, what's it called, to his presentation to me. I'm trying to check it out. The link to his presentation, he has shared that with me. So if you want to go through, I'm trying to copy it. I'm trying to copy his presentation. Okay. Okay. Now this is the link to Mr. Rashid presentation. That's the link to Mr. Rashid presentation. That's the link to his presentation. So you can access his presentation from there. So the digital lab is coming up. So let's do well to make the opportunity. And then of course the STEM educator, program. The STEM educator program. Please, we want you to, okay, trying to get it out. Okay, we have about 50 educators that have applied for this program already, and this will be the first time. This will be the very first time teachers will be trained emphatically well on STEM. The world is going on STEM now. This is the first time teachers will be trained emphatically on STEM. Before, it has been students being trained. Like we have said, we are shifting our direction. While we want to help the student, we need to also help the teachers so that the teachers can help the student as well. So we are shifting from the norm has been training students on STEM activities and like. Now we want to train teachers on STEM, how to start running STEM curriculum and the like. So if you're on the WhatsApp platform or the Telegram platform, the link to register, the link to register for the STEM training is going to be there. We are going to be sending it on either the WhatsApp platform, or like you can reach out to my number. So we have about 50.
First to 30 November.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
These are more.
Yes, I can.
Make sure you are on the Telegram platform. Make sure you are on the Telegram platform and on the WhatsApp. We are going to be sharing this information now. Thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this conference. In the next conference, 2023, a virtual conference like this, we are going to be looking at paradigm shift. Theme for the next conference, like I did in the last conference, in 2021 conference, I announced the theme a year before. So the theme you are going to be looking at in 2023 conference will be paradigm shift. I think we deserve a clap for that. Can I have you clap? Let's clap. If you're excited, can we clap this? We are going to be looking at paradigm shift. The world is moving at a very fast pace, and then teachers and educators must understand that there is need for a mind shift and a paradigm shift in the education sector. So we are going to be disrupting a whole lot in the education space, disrupting a whole lot of mindset, so you can have a paradigm shift and begin to make global relevance. You are going to begin to make global relevance. So next year will be another time to have you guys on board. once again, thank you to STEM Education Conference, STEM Educational Services for their sponsorship. Thanks to Edverse. Thanks for Vanguard Educational Company that belongs to Mr. Mohammed Rashid. They have supported us a whole lot. And of course, for Future Leaders International School, they supported us a whole lot as well. Thank you to these wonderful partners. Thank you to all participants that have been part of this conference from the World Goal. Thank you to all the Emerald team who has been part of this. If you want to know more about Emerald, go to www.emeraldeduconceptandservices.com. Go to our website and find out more about us. Next year is going to be blast. We are bringing game changers across the world. And then make sure we are going to be sending a feedback form. We are going to be sending a feedback form to everyone, to the WhatsApp platform and the Telegram platform. Please give us a feedback. Because, and then, of course, we want you to share this moment. Hashtag, make sure you hashtag beyond the classroom, Educators Conference 2022, hashtag beyond the classroom, hashtag Emerald Edu Concept and Services. Share your experience with teachers that are missing. Of course, all the YouTube session, the YouTube live will be on our YouTube. All the sessions are on our YouTube channel. We are going to be dropping the link. Share with educators. They need to hear this. It has been massive from Folawe to Patricia to Keisha to Mr. Mohammed to Bumi Anani. It has been value from up and down, left and right. It has been value massive. So share with educators that need to hear and see this. Everyone, whether they are here or not, let them be part of this. So if you want to reach out to the program director, the director of programs, she's also here. Reach out to her at dop@emeraldeduconceptandservices.com, dop@emeraldeduconceptandservices.com. Maybe you want to partner with us for next year program, Paradigm Shift. Reach out to us as well. You can reach out to me as well, or you can reach out to us via our website. Our mail is there, and our contact is there as well. Make sure you are telling the story about this conference all on the social media platform. I want us to go to all social media platform now. Hashtag Educators Conference, hashtag Beyond the Classroom 2022, and talk, share your experience. Make sure you help us fill the feedback form. We want to hear from you. How well have we tried? What are some of the things you observed that we need to do right? Make sure you do all of this. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you to the team, Emerald team, for this. It has been massive. Thank you to the content team. Thank you to the media team, to the publicity team, to the IT team. Thank you to the planning team. Thank you to all of our speakers once again. You guys, my WhatsApp contact is +234 901 9016005019. My WhatsApp contact is +234 9016005019. +234 9016005019. You can reach out to me privately. You can reach out to the director of programs as well. Thank you once again, everyone, for being part of this conference. I will leave you to the hand of the director of program to quickly get us, and we end the session. Director of program, over to you. Director of programs, over to you.
Thank you so much to the executive director and to every participant who created time. I can hear myself. Hello, once again, thank you everyone who has participated in this conference from the day one up till this moment. A big thank you to our speakers who has devoted their times and the invaluable learning opportunities they've given to us. like the executive director said, it has been massive. It is invaluable. So we thank you. Thank you for sharing this time with us. If we do not go home with anything, I believe today we've had a lot to go back home with. I remember a time where the Minister for Education in Ghana shared a story. I watched a video where he shared a story that he went to a classroom to teach, and then he asked a question. He went to share his time with students in a classroom, and then he asked a question, and no student could say anything. Students were afraid to speak. Students were afraid of him. Markeisha mentioned that our students are most likely intimidated by our or by what they've heard or by our teaching techniques. So the Commissioner for Education in Ghana said he went there and then students were afraid to answer our questions. If we do not impact students' life to think critically, to be able to stand up for themselves, to be able to ask questions, how then can we build a sustainable future? So let's go back with these reflective questions. How can I impact the life of my students? How can I prepare them for a life beyond the classroom and even in the classroom? Do they ask questions? Do they share feedbacks? Do I give them an opportunity to share their hearts with me, to share their burdens with me? Markeisha also mentioned that while you are teaching, two qualities have to be at the back of your mind: empathy and love. You should carry on as a teacher with these two important qualities. I would also stress for the last time that when you look at students' problems, the programs that worked all cultivated from the same basis, which is what Ms. Keisha mentioned: empathy, love, self-compassion, self-management. And we should ensure to teach students with necessary skills. We should create opportunities where students are open to learning. We should create opportunities where we bring the world to our classroom and we take our classroom to the world. Once again, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. God bless you. Bye.
See you next year, Paradigm Shift 2023. Now Paradigm Shift 2023. Beyond the classroom is over. Paradigm Shift 2023 is there. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being part. Celebrate yourself, celebrate your community, celebrate your country, celebrate your student, celebrate life. See you in 2023. Thank you and God bless you.